back to Crunch Labs. I'm Mark Rober, and today we're going to be talking about the Boomerang car and all the cool engineering nuggets that come along with it. Now, if you haven't seen it, because you just got the box and you've got your parts laid out, and you put this video up, let me show you what you're going to be building and how cool it is. What you've got here is a car, and if you turn it on, there's a very unique feature with the car, which is that after a certain distance, it will flip the switch, which makes it go the other way. That's why we call it the Boomerang car, because you can set it down, and then it goes back and forth. But what's really interesting is that by adjusting these two arms up top, then you can prescribe how far away it goes before it comes back. So I'm gonna make these very narrow, so now it's gonna be a very quick turnaround. And there's a bunch of things you can do with this. So, you could put something in this little silver tin, and it can go down the table to your buddy. He could take what's in there and then send it back to you, and it just goes back and forth. And I like this because it's just a fun tactile way to switch directions of this car with this toggle switch. We have these two arms that are actually physically doing it. But most importantly, it uses a worm gear to pull this off. And worm gears are the topic for today. And worm gears, and just gears generally, are really interesting because they are used everywhere. Almost every single machine has gears in it. In fact, more than half the Crunch Labs boxes so far have secretly had gears. We'll talk about that, along with a bunch of my YouTube videos. So this is a juicy one, and let's get into it, of course, starting with the question of the day. All right, so let's see what we got here. How do you lift a car with just your pinky? Interesting. Always to the left. It's always to the left. That almost sounds like a superpower. Well, we know engineering can give us superpowers, so you be thinking about this question, and we'll eventually, using the stuff on this table, work our way to answering it. All right, well, let's start from the beginning. Like, when were gears first invented? And by the way, when I say gear, this is what I'm talking about. So, these are the gear badges, as you've seen, and it's basically a wheel with teeth on it. So that when I spin this, it interacts with these other wheels with teeth, and then, they all spin in unison. This is very useful for machines. So the first evidence of gears is from like 2,500 years ago in China. Can you guess what it was for? They didn't really have fancy machines back then, but they did have clocks. So the first evidence of gears is in clocks. We've also found evidence for them dating way back for these devices that could predict the movement of the stars. But gears became increasingly important when we started building machines. Now again, machines are our attempt to take the energy. It's always originally from the sun, like we talked in the tripwire box, and then we convert it into doing something that's useful for us. So you started with like water wheels, like 2,000 years ago, but then eventually we had steam engines in the 1700s, and then electric motors were like early 1800s, then internal combustion engines. These are all engines and motors that spin a shaft. But here's the question. Let me bring this over here to demonstrate. What happens if my water wheel, or my electric motor, or my internal combustion motor, this is the shaft, it's delivering power like this, but the thing I want to make move is over here. Well, that's where gears are really cool, because I could put a gear here, and now when the shaft moves, we get movement over here that could do something really useful, right? Or maybe it's actually down here. Well, I could just add another gear, and now we get the action and the movement down here, even though the input shaft is over here. On top of moving the location, it allows you to split the movement. So let's say for a car, for example, well, you only have one engine, but you're able to power multiple wheels. So like this could be technically the wheels. Now when you turn this engine, now two wheels are turning. Gears are what make that happen. On top of that, we can change the speed of things. So let's say the water wheel turns kind of slowly, but we need the water wheel to power a drill. That needs to spin really fast. Well, if you change the number of teeth on the gear, watch what happens when I turn this. One full rotation of this gear equates to 2 full rotations on the smaller gear because it has fewer teeth. And the math is easy. Because this gear has twice as many teeth, this one will spin twice as many times for each single rotation. The other fun thing about gears is that each gear changes the rotation direction. So you'll notice when I spin this one this way, this is clockwise, because that goes the way the hands of a clock go. This red one goes what we call counterclockwise. That means it's spinning the opposite direction. But then this one, because it switches every time, is moving the same direction as the original input. Well then this one, as you might guess, is moving the opposite direction, counterclockwise. So let's do a fun puzzle here. And I'm going to put a bunch of gears up here. Now you have to tell me, is this one going to spin clockwise or is it going to spin counterclockwise? What do you think? We can work our way through it because this is the same direction, opposite, same, opposite, same, opposite, same. So if I turn this, it should be clockwise. And there it is. All right, so one of the interesting things about gears is it allows you to change the speed from the input, the powered shaft, to what else is happening. So let me tell you what I'm talking about. So this is an example of a motor we've sent already in a bunch of the build boxes. In fact, on this very first, the disc launcher, if you pop off this red cylinder, you can see it's right there. Now there's no gearbox here. So the speed at which our flywheel spins is just the default spin of the motor. And I put a little piece of tape on there so you can see how quickly it's spinning. But the thing is, it's not that strong. Like I could easily grab this and stop it spinning with just my fingers, right? The same goes for the flywheel. It spins fast, but it's easy to grab it and just stop it from it spinning at any time. But there's a relationship here, and I've kind of written it on the board here. You could be fast, but not that strong, or with the motor, you could be not that fast, but really strong. These are called inversely proportional. So if you're fast, you're not that strong. If you're not that fast, then you're going to be strong. And by the way, when I say strong, the fancy word for that is torque. So if something is spinning and it has a lot of force in spinning, we would say that has high torque. So because I can just simply grab this motor and stop it, it has a low torque. It's not very strong as far as like spinning things. Well, let me show you one that's a little stronger. If I turn this on, you see this output shaft? If I try and stop this with my hand, I literally can't do it with my fingers because it's so strong. But you notice, it's not spinning nearly as fast as this other motor. Well, why might that be? If I slide this motor out, you see it looks just like this one. Once again, it's going really fast, but it's super easy to stop with my fingers. Now, if we open up this yellow box to see what's going on, as you might have guessed, there's a bunch of gears in there. This is what we call a gearbox. So what it's doing is it's taking this really fast motor, and I slide it in here. I'm going to try and turn it on here with everything exposed. Now you can see, by going through all these gears, it reduces it down, and it makes it spin slower, but much stronger. And why is that useful? Well, if you've been paying attention to some of the builds we've sent, if you look on draw, see these two? Those are gearboxes. So it's taking that really fast motor, especially small DC motors like this, they just spin really fast, and it's gearing it down. These now turn much slower, because that's what we needed. We needed something that spun slow, but it had enough strength to power through and to make marks on the paper. Another example of a box we've already sent is the strobe light animator. So the trick is, if you ever see the yellow thing attached to a motor we send, it means there's a gearbox. It means we're trying to manipulate the speed of the output motor and make it slower and stronger. So this is too fast and it's too weak. So by using gears and a gearbox like this, we can have something spin at the exact speed we need. And look at this. There's even a couple hidden gears right there. I didn't even remember until I opened this. But when we designed this color wheel inside, we needed a solution where you could change it from the outside of the box with the lid closed. And when we did that, we realized gears would be a perfect way to translate that motion. Another good example of this is like a power drill. A lot of times there's a setting here at the top, and in one setting, it spins pretty quick. But if you shift this here, now it's going to go not as fast, but it's going to be much stronger. So see how that's spinning slower versus faster? But this slower setting could drill through much harder wood because it's stronger. Again, it goes back to this relationship. You're either fast and not as strong, or you're not as fast and you're strong. And the secret to making that happen is inside here, there's a bunch of gears that allow that trade-off to happen. All right, so let's talk about some examples of different types of gears that you can see in everyday life, because I told you they're everywhere. So the most common type of gear is a spur gear. That's this. So basically it's a wheel with the teeth, and you just turn it. So these are spur gears with a diploma. These are spur gears here. On my rock skipping robot, if you look carefully right underneath here, that uses a spur gear. For the domino robot, the motor housings, there's a gearbox here that changes the output speed like we talked about. In this yellow gearbox, like I showed you before, those were all spur gears as well. Helical gears are kind of like spur gears, but they're cut at an angle. This allows them to be quieter and to have less slop. So they're more expensive to make and a little harder to maintain, but they're really good because they're incredibly quiet and they fit very snugly, so there aren't many gaps between the teeth. This is why they're used in cars a bunch. Then you have bevel gears. These are good for turning a 90-degree angle because your powered shaft might be in this angle, but the thing you need to control is coming down at this angle. So a beveled gear allows you to kind of turn that corner. Here's another cool way to do that by using just a normal spur gear, and this is like an egg beater, right? But what you notice is one complete turn up here correlates to a bunch of spins and turns down here. Well, how are we doing that? Well, as we recall from over here, there must be a very small gear in here. And sure enough, if we peek, aha, there it is. So now you can see as I turn this, one full rotation equates to like 15 turns of this beater. So that's a way to get high speed from low speed. But of course it won't be very strong, and sure enough it takes hardly any force, and I can stop this from turning. Then you've got rack and pinion gears. You see these a lot on steering columns for cars or even toys. This is a good way to turn rotary motion into linear motion. Another popular type of gear is sprocket and chain. So if you look at the field goal kicking robot, you see that's what we're utilizing here. And now for this one, we wanted the foot to go twice as fast as sort of the driving sprocket. And so to accomplish that, as you might guess by this point, you just see the sprocket here is like half as small. And then that means as the foot comes down and kicks the football, it's moving even faster than the input sprocket that's being pulled by the springs. Another type of sprocket and chain that you've definitely seen before on our train horn bike here. So in this case, you are the energy source. So the sun will grow some plants, you eat those plants, it powers your muscles, and you turn the pedals like this, and that of course turns this sprocket, which goes to this chain, which goes to the sprocket back here, which moves the back wheel, and that's what makes it go. And then for the final gear example that we'll talk about today is actually our gear badge for the day, and that's worm gears. I really like these type of gears. They're pretty interesting. So this is an example of a worm gear. So with worm gears, you get these really high gear ratios. So you can see this says 16:1 here. That means for every 16 times I turn this around, this sprocket gear will turn once. So you can see as you turn this, and the corkscrew goes down, that's what interacts with these gear teeth here. Now what's specifically interesting about worm gears is for a lot of gear trains, like these spur gears, well, I could come over here, I could basically drive it from any one of these gears and the rest of them will turn, right? For worm gears, I can drive it from this side, but look what happens when I try and drive it from this side. It doesn't move, and it kind of makes sense why it doesn't move, right? It's like this corkscrew, of course it would move the gear this way, but if I try and move it here, it's locked in place. We can use that to our advantage. One example is what's called a monkey wrench. So this uses a worm gear. As I spin this, you can see it changes the size of the opening of the wrench, but I want this to be locked in place because when I put it on the nut, I need it to turn and torque and spin that nut without this changing size. So that's why worm gears are a perfect choice here. I can easily adjust the opening size, but when I actually torque the nut, it's gonna stay locked in place. Another great example of worm gears are on guitar strings. So these use a worm gear to make really small adjustments to the tightness of the string. And of course that would change the pitch. If I pluck one of these, you hear that pitch change? A worm gear is a great choice here because once you get it to the right spot, you want it to be locked in place. And that'll keep your guitar in tune. One more example of a worm gear that I've used in my videos, you might recognize this as the insides of the lunchbox we took to those scam call centers. Of course, if you take this off, this was the wall that moved this way so the cockroaches would come out after a time delay. Well, this is the motor here, and this rotating ball shaft is a type of worm gear, basically. And as this shaft spins, this collar is forced to move up and down, and that basically makes the wall get smaller, so the cockroaches have to leave and go harass the bad guys. And for the final example of gears making our lives better by being in machines is a worm gear. It's actually the answer to our question of the day. How do you lift a car with just a pinky? Well, you use one of these. This is called a car jack, and it uses this principle we've talked about of trading out fast for strong. So as I spin this around, and you're hardly able to see it, but this top is actually moving up this way. So we're trading off fast for strong. This thing is moving really slowly because of this type of worm gear, just like we used in the cockroach box. But as a trade-off for going slowly, this is really strong. In fact, it's so strong, it could lift the corner of a car. And this is why it's a perfect choice for jacking up your car so you could change your tire if you have a flat tire. In fact, it's so strong, it's possible to even move this around using just your pinky. So there's another great example of how we could use the power of engineering and our smarts to essentially turn us into superheroes, because we're lifting a car with just the force from our pinky. Okay, so now let's cover how to put this thing together. As usual, you could either use the paper instructions, or you could use the video that I'm showing and just kind of pause as you go along, or some combination of both. Just remember, it'll take me about 4 minutes to fly through this, but it'll take you anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour. First, locate the blue worm gear and the square dowel, then slide the square dowel into the hole in the worm gear. Next, find 2 yellow panels, 2 clear gears, and 2 short plastic tubes. Slide the yellow panels onto each end of the wood dowel, then the plastic gears, followed by the plastic tubes. Next, locate the red toggle switch, then unscrew the metal nut from the switch and set it aside for later. Then find the large wood frame and place it with the Crunch Labs logo facing up. From the bottom, insert the red toggle switch into the hole in the wood frame. Make sure the groove in the wood aligns with the groove in the stem of the toggle switch. Now reinstall the metal nut onto the switch, which will secure it to the wood frame. As a pro tip, we cut out a hexagon in the dark blue side rails so that it can be used as a wrench. This should help you tighten down the nut. Then grab the rear axle assembly and slide it into the gap in the wood frame. Then grab the 2 dark blue side rails and slide them onto the rear axle, as well as the tabs on the wood frame. Next, find 4 of the white O-rings and use those to secure the side rails to the tabs on the wood frame. Then locate the battery pack and the adhesive foam and remove the clear plastic tab from the battery pack, then peel and stick the adhesive foam to the battery pack. Now peel and stick the battery pack to the bottom of the wood panel while making sure the on-off switch is visible from the other side. Now grab the yellow DC motor and the adhesive foam and peel and stick the adhesive foam over the shaft of the DC motor. Now find the wood piece with the etched arrow on it and the small clear plastic gear. Peel and stick the DC motor to the small wooden piece so the etched arrow is still visible. Then slide the clear plastic gear onto the motor shaft. Next, grab your build and flip it upside down so that the wiring is exposed. Then slide the motor tab into the cutout in the wooden frame. This should cause the clear gears to mesh together like this. Now connect the wires on the battery pack to the wires on the red switch, making sure the red wires go to the red wires and the black wires go to the black wires. Now connect the motor wires to the wires on the red switch, make sure red goes with red and black goes with black. Now find the circular wooden dowel and the 2 black O-rings and slide the circular dowel through the 2 circular holes in the side rails. Then use the 2 black O-rings to secure it in place. Now grab a wooden square dowel and the long plastic tube, then slide the square dowel into the plastic tube. Next, slide both of them into the open holes in the dark blue side rails. Now locate all 4 of the plastic wheels and 4 rubber bands and stretch the rubber bands over each of the 4 blue wheels. Now slide all 4 wheels onto the square dowels, and then you're going to grab 4 more black O-rings and use them to secure the plastic wheels to the square dowels. Now for a quick test, turn on the battery pack switch and see what happens. When you flip the toggle switch, you should see the wheels start rotating in the opposite direction. Next, find the large clear gear and blue rivet. Use the blue rivet to secure the large gear to the center of the wood frame. Then locate the dark blue clock arm and the small yellow wood piece. Then peel and stick the wood piece to the tip of the clock arm. Now grab the white wing nut and the red wooden clock arm along with the large yellow circle and a white bolt. Insert the white bolt into the bottom of the yellow circle, then stack the red arm onto the bolt followed by the blue arm. Finally, screw on the wing nut to secure everything tightly. Now find the large yellow foam spacer and peel and stick the yellow foam to the bottom of the arm assembly. Then peel and stick the arms onto the center of the plastic gear. Pro tip, a limit switch makes sure a machine doesn't travel too far. These arms are a form of a limit switch that allows you to adjust how far your car goes before changing directions. Now grab a white bolt and all 3 yellow spacers as well as the magnet and a wing nut. From the bottom of the car, insert the long white bolt, then place 2 yellow spacers on top. Next, place the magnet on top of your spacer and stack 1 last spacer onto the bolt and secure everything in place with a white wing nut. And now we test. Flip the battery pack switch to the on position and watch what happens. Now place the car on the ground to see what happens. You can adjust the arms to change how long it takes your car to reverse directions. Now you're ready to go, and you can even use the tin we included in the box. So put something that's real important to you inside that tin, and then when you're ready and you need something to retrieve it, then flip on your car and then watch as it goes, retrieves it, and brings it right back to you like a good robot should. All right, so for our engineering hustle, I think we go with the question of the day. So you talk with a parent or a sibling or a friend, you say, I bet you extra dessert or your last piece of Halloween candy you still got lying around, and I could lift a car with just my pinky. And when they say, no way, that's impossible, you pull out a picture of a jack, or maybe you go get your jack from the car and just show them. Obviously, you don't want to actually lift the car unless you have your parents' permission and you're doing that with them. But this is another example where you're using your engineering knowledge to essentially become a superhero, because you're trading fast, you're going really slow with each turn, and it slowly raises it in exchange for strong. And now you can literally lift a car with just your pinky. You're basically Superman. All right, well done today. As usual, this is just the beginning. I say this every time, but engineering is an iterative process. It's all about prototypes. So while this might look like a nice finished car, this is just a prototype. And what are you going to do to take this to the next level? I don't know, maybe you could put a marker on this, and as it goes back and forth, it draws. You could use it to fetch items for you. You send it to your friend down the table, and she sends something back. Perhaps you could put a cup on top of this, so it becomes a moving target. You can maybe shoot your disc launcher or other things into. If you really want to get crazy, maybe put some different wheels on this. Smaller wheels in front, bigger in back, or vice versa. And then see kind of what happens when you make a tweak like that. See what that does to the speed of the car. I'm not even 100% sure myself. The only way I would find out is by messing around and experimenting in my own garage. And again, no matter what you do, just make sure you work with your parents, post it online, tag us at Crunch Labs, because I love seeing the clever things you guys do to take this to the next level. It truly is delightful for me. All right, so that's it. You've now earned your gear badge for Worm Gears. So go put your Boomerang car together, and I'll catch you next month right here at Crunch Labs. Oh, and if you're watching this and you haven't yet ordered your Build Box subscription from Crunch Labs, then what the heck are you waiting for? Go to crunchlabs.com with the parents, and once you're there, you can learn more about how it all works. Thanks for watching.